Turkey-Syrian earthquake.
There was an absolutely horrific earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria the other day, and it is a dire scenario. So we're going to get to the specifics in a second. I'll show you a video. But as of this recording,
let's talk
at
about
least
this earthquake,
36,000
really
people
fucked up.
are dead. And I think that's just in Turkey. And that number is continuing to rise more and more and more. They're still looking through the rubble. Now, one of the things that was so devastating about this is not only that it was a really, really strong earthquake, but a lot of these buildings in Turkey, maybe about half of the buildings in Turkey, are not really up to code to deal with a strong earthquake.
Yep.
And in the case of Syria, they're in an equally bad scenario, except they're also not getting any aid that comes in to help them because of sanctions against them. So it's just a really horrendous situation all the way around. So again, we'll get to the video in a second. I'll show you the horrible carnage on the ground. Just everybody warning in advance. When we get to the video, it's tough. But this is an NPR here. Videos show Turkey's Erdogan boasted letting builders avoid earthquake codes. Well, that's good. That's good. This is like the story we just discussed about the train derailment in Ohio, the toxic chemical fire, the wildlife dying everywhere, an entire Ohio town being poisoned, and all of it stems back to the industry said, don't make us upgrade our brakes. That costs money. We're going to keep using these Civil War era brakes.
Yep, remember we talked about this.
Avoiding new regulations because it costs money, and as a result of it, poisoning everybody in sight. And having an absolute ecological and environmental catastrophe and disaster and rampant health problems. I mean, it's a joke, right? Because the answer is so straightforward. It was just, hey, suck it up, pay the money, do the goddamn upgrades. Just do the upgrades. It's $55 billion industry. And they were like, no, we don't want to do that. Again, here you have Erdogan bragging. Yeah, you pay a little extra money, basically a bribe, and you're good. You don't have to do the building codes. Well, Turkey's on top of multiple fault lines. This isn't just like a casual choice and a flippant decision with no consequences. The consequences are now you have 36,000, more than that, dead bodies. Jesus Christ. As Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan struggles to defend his response to last Monday's devastating 7.8 magnitude earthquake, videos from a few years back have emerged showing him hailing some of the housing projects that crumbled, killing thousands of people. Critics say contractors were allowed to skip crucial safety regulations, increasing their profits, but putting residents at risk. The videos have fueled public outrage over slow efforts to help residents in the aftermath of the massive quake, the world's deadliest in over a decade, that killed more than 35,000 people in Turkey and neighboring Syria and left many injured and without a home, food, or heating in the middle of the winter. In one video taken during a campaign stop ahead of Turkey's March 2019 local elections, Erdogan listed some of his government's top achievements, including new housing for the city of Kahramanmaraş, also known as Maras, near the epicenter of last week's quake. Quote, we solved the problem of 144,156 citizens of Mars with zoning amnesty, Erdogan said, using his term for the construction amnesties handed out to allow contractors to ignore the safety codes that had been put on the books specifically to make apartment blocks, houses, and office buildings more resistant to earthquakes. Engineers and architects say the lack of safety features designed to absorb the shock of earthquakes likely contributed to the soaring death toll. Yet again, lack of good regulations that are enforced, it's deadly. It's super duper deadly. This is why you have regulations. Another analogy. We got rid of the regulations on Wall Street in the financial sector, got rid of Glass-Steagall, and oh, would you look at that? We had the 2007 and 2008 subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession.
Yep.
These things have consequences, man. So let's get to the video, and you'll see just how bad it is on the ground there.
This morning, but hope in finding more survivors is fading. This morning, the desperate search for survivors as a critical window to find people alive narrows, and the death toll tops 28,000. The UN warning that number could double.
I think it's really difficult to estimate. And that's terrifying.
This dramatic drone footage capturing the scale of the destruction in Turkey. U.S. military aircraft and supplies now arriving to aid in the response, as members of USAID used dogs to scour more than 630 sites across the city, determined to find life buried deep within the debris.
It's still possible, but it seems like these rescues are happening fewer and fewer.
Yeah, it's many days beyond now. So naturally, the temperature, the climate's pretty rough here, and the type of collapse and structures that are down on them make it very difficult for them.
But as hope fades, still miraculous stories of survival as rescuers work tirelessly, cutting through collapsed buildings. In Hatay, Turkey, a 2-month-old baby pulled from the rubble of a decimated building, onlookers applauding. Nearby, a 7-year-old boy pulled from the earth after 136 hours, first responders working desperately to save his life. This video from the 138th hour, filmed by the Istanbul rescue teams, showing the harrowing rescue of a mother and son. And incredibly, 147 hours after the quake, this 10-year-old girl now free. These glimmers of hope amidst the devastation as first responders from around the globe descend on the quake zone, braving aftershocks, freezing cold, and dangerous conditions. Here, you see rubble and debris collapsing on rescue workers as they scramble to find survivors. And here, a family of 5 saved from the wreckage and mounds of debris, rescue workers passing them along a human chain to safety. And as the search goes on, arrests. This property developer taken into custody, authorities say, as he tried to leave the country. Turkish prosecutors ordering the detention of more than 100 people involved in the construction of buildings that collapsed.
That's funny because the Turkish president allowed them to cut corners, so...
Will they also be arresting President Erdogan? Because he greenlit this entire thing. Are they going to be arresting him?
And in Syria, there have been massive challenges with access. In hard-hit Aleppo, rescuers using excavators searching through tons of rubble, still hoping to find anyone alive. Now, the anguish taking its toll. The earthquake was light, and then the building suddenly collapsed. Everyone died, and I don't remember anything. I don't even remember the days or the hours.
Look, you have to lift the sanctions on Syria. You have to be able to get help in there. I mean, this is a massive humanitarian catastrophe. You can't take a political situation, a war, these international issues that are unrelated to this particular disaster and let that cloud your judgment. It's just, it's the right thing to do from a humanitarian perspective, a morality and ethics perspective. It's illogical to be against helping them. It's crazy. So lift the sanctions, help Syria. I hope Turkey gets more help. Clearly they need it. You got these terrible stories of, people. One guy talked about how he survived and they were able to dig him out after days, but he said, I stopped hearing people a few days back, man. There were other people who were buried near me and I heard them, and then until a few days back I stopped hearing them. So they had passed away and he ended up surviving. What a terrible, terrible situation. Now, look, on the building regulation thing, here's what the counter argument is. Let's be as kind as we can be. Let's steel man the opponent. The argument they make is, look, if you get rid of all these onerous rules and regulations, all the red tape, as they call it, what happens? Well, you get rid of all the red tape, and then these builders don't want to make a bad building. They don't want to basically put out a bad product, because then people are going to know it's bad, and they'll get a bad reputation, and in the free marketplace, they'll just fail on their own merits. That's the argument they make. And the response to that is, some of these problems take 15 years, 20 years to manifest. And people might not know. They're in an unsafe building, or they have a product that's bound to malfunction until the catastrophe, the disaster arrives, and then it's too late, and then people are dead. I mean, think about this argument in the context of, pharmaceutical companies. You don't need rules and regulations and people who are experts in safety to deal with the drugs. Because obviously the company wants to put out a good product or the reputation will be harmed. So they're going to put out the best product they can, whether or not there are rules.
No.
And it's no, a lot of these people are unscrupulous snake oil salesmen.
This is insane, dude.
Some of the products will be total bullshit, and it's totally based off placebo effect and nothing else. Some
This
of these
is
products
insane,
end up being
dude.
pulled from the market after we learned, actually, that one kind of poisoned you. It's not a cure, it's part of the problem. So the argument it doesn't add up. A lot of the arguments from this super libertarian perspective on regulations, it's all theory. There's no connection with the real world. In theory, you can conceptualize of a situation where a company would always do the right thing because they care about their reputation, and so they do a good job for the sake of doing a good job and for the sake of putting out a good product. But it just turns out that in reality, not everybody is an honest actor, and a lot of people are going to cut a lot of corners to make more profit. They care more about the short-term benefit than the long-term viability of,
At gunpoint.
of the company.
Beat a kid in
So
Walmart
it's
at
just-
gunpoint.
You need building regulations. You need codes.
And
You
it
need
makes
to
me
have them
cry
up to strict
to even
standards.
look at 'em.
You know, if you live on the Florida coast, you're going to want building codes that can withstand Category 5 hurricanes. Because guess what? Every now and then, you're going to get hit with a really strong hurricane.
Yep.
Should we not have that rule for places that are right on the coast in hurricane-prone areas? I certainly wouldn't want to live in one of those structures, would you? It's so obvious. But again, there are people who will contest it. You know, the economic libertarians, the anarcho-capitalists, who think regulations are always burdensome, they're always onerous, they're always unnecessary, it's always authoritarian on the part of the government. It's just a childish view. It really is. So anyway, there you have it. My heart goes out to Turkey. My heart goes out to Syria. What a horrendous situation. If you want to see...
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. Thank you, Kyle Kalinske. Guys, check him out. Yeah, the Turkey
President Lula
situation, the whole Turkey situation is really terrible, and I hope everyone, you know what I mean, I hope everyone can